Long ago, in a time when humans and spirits had not yet drawn clear boundaries, the mountains and fields breathed like living beings once night fell. The village of Musan was such a place where darkness and light intertwined like drifting mist. When fog rose from across the river, people bolted their doors and warned their children never to step outside. There was only one reason, a saying passed down for generations: when the moon is hidden, the Dokkaebi walks the mountain. As years went by, this tale grew into fear, and the Dokkaebi came to be seen as a bringer of misfortune. But the truth was unknown. Not every spirit wandering the forest was wicked or violent. There were those who quietly watched over human sorrow from afar. On the outskirts of Musan village stood a small thatched house where a young woman lived with her ailing mother. Despite their poverty, the daughter never uttered a single complaint. At dawn she climbed the mountains to gather herbs. At noon she carried water from the stream, and each night she sat by her mother's bedside, holding her hand and praying for her recovery. But the illness that began in autumn grew heavier as winter approached. Even the remedies prescribed by the village doctor brought no improvement. Before long, whispers spread among the villagers. That house must be tainted by a Dokkaebi's curse. Yet the young woman refused to be shaken. She returned home late, even in the biting cold, gathered firewood to warm the room, and boiled medicinal water until her hands were cracked and raw. Whenever her mother struggled to breathe at night, the daughter quietly recited old prayers, wishing for even a moment of relief. Their home was poor, but a deep, enduring bond filled its walls. Still, the illness showed no sign of fading, and the villagers' fearful glances only grew. "It must be the work of a Dokkaebi," they murmured, leaving the young woman to sink deeper into loneliness. Early one dawn, the young woman climbed the fog-covered mountain path, hoping to find better herbs that might ease her mother's worsening illness. The air was cold and damp, and the wind brushed through the leaves with a low, trembling whisper. The stone path, wet with morning dew, was far more slippery than she expected, and the faint crescent moon wavered through the thick mist above her. Each cautious step sent small stones rolling down the slope, and her breath drifted pale into the chilly air. Then, near a large boulder, she lost her footing, her ankle twisted sharply, and she collapsed onto the cold ground. A sting of pain shot up her leg. Moist soil and dewy grass soaked through her clothes as she clutched her ankle and tried to steady her breathing. The mountain was silent, too silent, and she was completely alone in the dim blue of dawn. And then, a heavy footstep echoed through the earth, slow, deliberate, and powerful, as if something ancient was moving beneath the ground itself. Startled, she lifted her head. Something was approaching through the swirling fog. Through the thick fog, a vague silhouette approached, so unclear that the maiden could not tell whether it was human or beast. The cold air brushed against her skin, and the wind whispered like a breath lingering beside her ear. Trembling with fear, she curled in on herself, holding her breath. But what emerged from the darkness was not a massive shadow or a pair of deadly claws as she had imagined. It was a single strand of red ribbon, swaying softly in the wind. In the darkness where even moonlight refused to cling, the ribbon alone glowed faintly, as if signaling its presence to her. Then behind it, a tall and powerful figure slowly stepped into view. The Dokkaebi the villagers had feared for generations, yet the eyes she met were nothing like those of a cruel monster. Instead, they held the quiet sorrow of someone who had lived countless years in solitude, watching the world from afar. With a trembling voice, the maiden whispered,
Who are you?"
The Dokkaebi bowed his head gently and replied.
"Do not be afraid."
His voice was deep and resonant, yet strangely warm and comforting. The Dokkaebi knelt beside the fallen girl and examined her injured ankle with a care so delicate. It seemed impossible for such a massive creature. His movements were slow and precise, as if he were handling something fragile and precious. A faint warmth radiated from his hands, an unexpected gentleness that felt more human than any kindness she had known. Without a word, he loosened the red ribbon, tied at his waist and carefully wrapped it around her ankle. The moment the ribbon touched her skin, a wave of soothing heat spread through her leg, easing the pain that had been gripping her. The girl exhaled in surprise and relief, and as she lifted her gaze to offer her thanks, the mist shifted once, and the Dokkaebi was gone. Only the lingering warmth and the soft glow of the red ribbon remained, as if he had been nothing more than a breath of wind. From that day on, strange yet gentle changes began to unfold throughout the village. Every dawn, neatly chopped firewood appeared in front of the maiden's house, stacked with such precision that it looked as if someone had measured each piece by hand. At morning light, fresh wild herbs, still glistening with moisture, were quietly placed beside her ailing mother's pillow, as though gathered only moments before. Even the old sagging fence and the creaking gate, damaged by wind and time, were found repaired overnight without a single sound. At first the maiden believed these acts to be simple kindness or unexpected charity, but as these signs continued day after day, always at the same quiet hour, she realized this was far beyond ordinary goodwill. It was too careful, too silent, and too warm, and slowly she began to sense that an unseen presence, someone who never revealed himself, was watching over them from the shadows. One day, when she opened her door, she saw a red ribbon fluttering in the wind, outside her window. And in that moment, she finally understood everything. The Dokkaebi, he was the one helping us all along. From that day on, the fear in her heart faded away, replaced by gratitude and a quiet trust. The Dokkaebi never spoke a word, yet he lingered near her like a silent guardian, watching over her and her sick mother without asking for anything in return. But to the villagers, the Dokkaebi remained a figure of fear. As autumn deepened and livestock began to fall ill, and children caught colds, one after another, people turned their uneasiness into anger. The Dokkaebi is roaming again. Who knows who will be harmed next? Rumors spread from mouth to mouth, growing harsher with every retelling, until the villagers, consumed by fear, gathered torches and stones and marched into the mountains. Reason was gone, swallowed by panic, and the truth had long vanished from their eyes. By the time the young woman learned what was happening, everything was already too late. The Dokkaebi, who had been guarding her home through the night with the faint glow of his red ribbon, was spotted at dawn by villagers passing nearby. Consumed by years of fear and suspicion, they screamed the moment they saw his towering silhouette.
Catch that monster!
He's the cause of all our misfortune. Stones were hurled, torches were raised, and the mob closed in. The flames flickered in the wind, casting a harsh red glow across the Dokkaebi's body as angry shouts echoed through the mountains. He stepped back to avoid the attacks, yet never once looked away from the young woman. The spirit who had appeared only to protect her now stood at the center of the villagers' blind rage. Because of her, the young woman ran toward the Dokkaebi, her face filled with terror and desperation. Tears streamed down her cheeks, yet her trembling voice held firm. He helped us, he saved my mother, and every night he stacked firewood for us without asking for anything. But the villagers, blinded by fear, refused to listen.
A
Dokkaebi helping humans? Impossible!
Don't
Don't
be
be
fooled. That creature is a
is an
deceiving
evil
evil
spirit.
spirit.
Their fear twisted into anger, and stones and torches once again aimed toward the Dokkaebi. This time, the Dokkaebi did not retreat. He rose to his full height and looked straight at the crowd. In a low, resonant voice filled with ancient weight and sorrow, he spoke.
This child does not speak falsehood.
But in that very moment, the Dokkaebi instinctively bent forward to block the torch that was about to strike the girl. Flames brushed across his massive shoulder, burning into his skin with a sharp hiss, and the scent of scorched flesh filled the air. Yet he did not utter a single sound of pain. Instead, he spread his arms wide, shielding the girl behind him. Then suddenly the red ribbon, tied at his waist, began to tremble violently, glowing with a deep crimson light as if something long dormant had awakened within it. It swayed in the air like a living spirit, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. The Dokkaebi drew in a slow breath as he summoned the last of his strength. Though his expression remained calm, he could feel the sinister presence creeping through the forest once more. It was the same dark force he had been battling alone for countless years. The true disaster no villager had ever seen. A low rumbling sound rose from deep beneath the earth. A cold, sticky wind swept through the trees, and the leaves shivered as if recoiling from an unseen predator. The presence took form as a black mist, slithering between the trunks, stretching its shadows toward the village. In that instant, the Dokkaebi knew he could no longer step back. If he failed here, the entire village would be swallowed by this darkness. He inhaled deeply, merging the glow of the red ribbon with the last remnants of his strength. Then he turned briefly to look at the girl. In his eyes there was no fear, only resolve, and the quiet sorrow of a being who had fought alone for far too long. The red ribbon rose into the air, glowing as if it were alive, and a violent wind swept through the forest. The ground trembled, branches cracked, and the once silent night roared like a living beast awakening. From within the darkness, a massive shadow, black as soot and writhing like smoke, spread across the mountainside. It was the true evil spirit, the one the Dokkaebi had been driving away in secret for years. The malevolent force lunged at him with a piercing scream that only spirits could make. The Dokkaebi braced himself, using every ounce of strength he had left, his broad frame slamming into the darkness to shield the girl and the village behind her. The clash was brief but furious, a storm of red light and black shadows colliding in the air. When the final burst of energy faded, the evil spirit's presence dissolved into nothingness, and the misfortune that had suffocated the village vanished like mist. But the victory came at a heavy price. The Dokkaebi's body began to flicker, fading like a lantern running out of oil, his form growing more transparent with every passing second.
Please don't go, please.
A bond does not remain for long. If you are at peace, that is enough.
After the Dokkaebi vanished, a deep calm settled over the village, like the quiet that follows a long and punishing storm. The fear and misunderstanding that once clouded the villagers' hearts began to fade, replaced by warmth and the willingness to help one another. Even the young woman's ailing mother slowly regained her strength, and laughter returned to their small home. The young woman knew these blessings were no coincidence. Each year, she walked to the forest path where the Dokkaebi had disappeared and tied a red ribbon on the very spot where he last stood. Whenever the wind passed through, the ribbon swayed gently, as if carrying the spirit's lingering breath. One day, while standing on a hill above the village, she saw something glide past the corner of her vision. A fleeting shadow shaped exactly like the Dokkaebi she remembered. When she blinked and looked again, it was gone, dissolving into the air like morning mist. Yet she felt no sorrow. Instead, a soft smile touched her lips.
Thank you. I will never forget the bond you left behind.
Her words drifted on the wind, and for a brief moment the red ribbon stirred, as if he had heard her. Some encounters pass like a fleeting breeze, yet remain deeply etched within the heart. For generations, people have called this unseen connection in Yun, a thread that quietly shapes our lives, guides our steps, and protects us in ways we may never notice. This story is a small miracle born from such a bond between a wandering Dokkaebi spirit and a human heart filled with quiet devotion. Even now, the traces of that connection drift through the wind, whispering softly to those who listen. This is the tale of the Dokkaebi,